America is respected again on the world stage. That's another topic. Obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment capability, and Operation Midnight Hammer was one of the most successful anyone's ever seen. CNN fake news. I don't know where they are. CNN. Anybody from CNN here? Fake news. Nobody wants to raise their hand anymore. They used to, oh, yeah. Now if you're with CNN, you don't raise your hand. But they said, well, maybe it wasn't that successful, which I really was angry because these pilots took their life in their hands. 2 o'clock in the morning with no moon, dead dark, guns shooting at them. They went in with those beautiful B-2s, and every single bomb went down an air shaft and obliterated it. And CNN came out and said, well, maybe it wasn't, by a scam writer who wrote, fake stories, a lot of fake stories on other topics, right? Because when we did it, we said, that's a terrible thing. The pilots came back and they said, we hit everything. They did a great job. Then on top of that, we launched from a submarine about 30 Tomahawks on top of everything else. The place was obliterated. CNN said, well, maybe it wasn't that bad. Turned out it was worse than it was. You know who could tell you that? The Iranians would tell you that. Because if they do anything, they're going to have to start a brand new place. But they did an amazing job. That was like what we did with Venezuela. I mean, nobody's ever seen a military operation like that. Ended 8 unendable wars in 10 months. These were unendable wars. Cambodia and Thailand fighting for years. Kosovo and Serbia. The Congo and Rwanda. Pakistan and India, they were really going at it. 8 planes shot down. They were going to go nuclear, in my opinion. The Prime Minister of Pakistan was here, and he said President Trump saved 10 million people and maybe much more than that. They're both nuclear countries. Israel and Iran. Egypt and Ethiopia were going to fight over a dam, and I got them to stop. I still got to work it out because they put a dam up in Ethiopia that stops the flow from a little river called the Nile. I always think of the Nile being in Egypt, beautiful Nile with the pyramids, but they put a dam up. You know who paid for the dam? The United States of America. It's the biggest dam, I think, in the world. They put a dam up. I said, how did you let that happen? Why would we have done that? We financed it. This country would, I don't know. Maybe it was a Republican president, but I don't think it was. I think it was a Democrat. But what a terrible thing. So Egypt basically is, they don't have enough water in the Nile. And they use that for a lot of things, including entertainment and travel and tourism and everything. I mean, I don't know. They got a big dam. I got to work that one out now, too. Armenia and Azerbaijan. President Putin told me, I cannot believe you settled that war. I've been trying to settle that war for 10 years. Armenia and Azerbaijan. They were fighting it for many, many years. And I ended up getting the heads of both countries in my office. The beautiful Oval Office, much more beautiful now than it ever was. And one sat on one side, one side of the other. He said, I've been the head of Azerbaijan for 22 years, and for 22 years I've been killing his people. And the other gentleman, and both very good guys, said, I've been here for 7 years, and for 7 years I've been killing his people. And they started over there, and within an hour they were next to each other, and by the time we ended, they were hugging each other, and it's been a great peace, Should have gotten the Nobel Prize for each war, but I don't say that. I saved millions and millions of people. And don't let anyone tell you that Norway doesn't control the shots, okay? It's in Norway. Norway controls the shots. They'll say, we have nothing to do with it. It's a joke. They've lost such prestige. That's why I have such respect for Maria doing what she did. She said, I don't deserve the Nobel Prize. He does. When she got it, they said, wow, that's amazing. I thought President Trump would get it. President Trump deserves it. He ended up 8 wars. How nice, right? She's a good woman. Got all 20 living hostages returned to their families, and the remains, they all came out. We got the 20 living hostages. We got the 28 hostages. They have 1 left that we think we know where it is. Amazing. looked like we weren't going to get anywhere near that. Now they've gotten almost. And more importantly, we got many more, hundreds. We got them all. If we didn't do it, you wouldn't have had, most of those people would have been dead. I don't know if that's covered properly, but you know, the 20 is great. They were the last ones. I always said the last 20 are going to be hard, but we got them. We got the last 20, and we got close to 28 of the bodies of the dead. And to those parents, that was just as important as getting their son back alive. They were almost even more intent on getting, they knew their son was dead. They wanted to get the body. I got him back. We just created the Board of Peace, which I think is going to be amazing. I wish the United Nations could do more. I wish we didn't need a Board of Peace, but the United Nations, and you know, with all the wars I settled, the United Nations never helped me on one war. I mean, I guess I'm not blaming them. I didn't call them to help, but I got, you know, the presidents and prime ministers together. We knocked heads. We got along, and they liked me. I liked them. Every single one of them nominated me for a Nobel Prize. Every one of the wars, among many other people, nominated me for a Nobel Prize. But Putin told me, I cannot believe you got this war settled. I've worked on it for 10 years because it's his territory. Rescued 83 American hostages and citizens detained from abroad without paying a lot of money. Paid no money. Apprehended terrorists responsible for the Abbey Gate bombing that claimed the lives of 13 U.S. service members in Afghanistan, the lowest point in the history of our country. That was a Biden disaster. I was getting out, but I was getting out with dignity and strength. We were the boss. Oh, we were the boss. They wouldn't do a thing against us. And this very stupid person got in, and what a shame. They should have left from Bagram, which is the big military base, which has hundreds of acres around it. Should have left from Bagram. Terminated visas of Hamas sympathizers and deported pro-jihad foreign nationals. Got NATO members to agree to raise defense spending to 5% of GDP from 2%, and they pay the 5%, and they didn't pay the 2%. And by the way, I did more for NATO than any other person alive or dead. Nobody's done for NATO. And I think for the most part, they'll tell you that. I think you could ask the Secretary General about that, but he said it a lot. I've done more for NATO than anybody, and I see all this stuff, but NATO has to treat us fairly, too. The big fear I have with NATO is we spend tremendous amounts of money with NATO, and I know we'll come to their rescue, but I just really do question whether or not they'll come to ours. You know, I'm just asking. Just saying, right? You remember during the debate? Just saying. Signed $1 trillion investment in U.S. military. And next year, we hopefully will go to a $1.5 trillion. We're building battleships that are 100 times more powerful than the battleships of World War II, which are the big, beautiful, those big, beautiful things with the guns. I said, what about bringing them out of dry dock? They said, sir, what we're building will blow them away. Think of it. These ships are 100 times more powerful than the battleships that you see on Victory at Sea. Do you ever see Victory at Sea? What a great thing that is to watch. Renamed the Department of Defense into the Department of War, which everyone loves, by the way. Signed landmark critical minerals deals with Australia, Malaysia, Thailand, Ukraine, Japan, and many others. We're going to have so much rare earth. It's actually not that rare. Getting it processed is rare, but there's a lot of rare earth. There's a lot of earth around, I can tell you. Withdrew from the corrupt World Health Organization, where we were paying hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So we were paying $500 million a year, and China was paying $37 million a year. I said, why aren't we paying the same as China? They said, well, nobody asked. I said, China's got 1.4 billion people. We have 350 million, probably, with all the illegals, you know. China probably knows more accurately. But we have much smaller in terms of the number of people. We have a much more powerful military, but we have much smaller. I rebuilt the military during my first term, by the way. And while they gave away a lot to Afghanistan, the Taliban, which was just horrible seeing them. Every year, seeing them do that military down some dirty street is a disgrace. But while Biden gave a lot of it away, it's a tiny fraction compared to what we did. I rebuilt the military, and now we're continuing to build it. And bigger and better, we need it. Peace through strength. But we withdrew from the corrupt World Health Organization. So I remember we were paying $500 million. They were paying 37 or 39 million. And I said, how come? So I withdrew, and they called, we'll give you the same deal that they had. I said, well, it should be less than that, because if they're at 37 and you have 3 times, 4 times the number of people, even maybe 5 times, I don't know. So it should be less, but I didn't want to chisel around. And I thought about it. So I could have taken 500 million to 37, and everybody knew it. I chose not to do it because it was actually very popular when I got out, because they were terrible. And so I chose not to take that deal. First thing Biden did is go back into it. You know what he paid? More than 500 million. So I actually called them. I said, you know, you can buy it for less. You can make a deal at 37. There's no reason to pay 500. They didn't care. They paid more than 500. Did you know that? They paid more than 500 million. I made a deal at 37. I could have had 37. They were public about it. We'll give you the same deal that China has for 37. And they paid 500 million. They paid $500 million. That's the way you ruin a country. And it's the same attitude that, you know, you have on everything else with these people. They were terrible. The anti-American UN Human Rights Council we ended. The UN Relief and Works Agency we ended. And the fake Paris Climate Accord, which was a ripoff of America, where we had to pay $1 trillion and they were paying nothing. China didn't kick in until 2035. We kicked in immediately. We were supposed to pay $1 trillion. Russia went to a standard of 1991, which was a dirtier standard. But we had to pay top dollar. So I terminated that. Another Rick. We ended the woke lunacy and restored common sense, abolished all discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI policies throughout the federal government and the private sector. They're gone, everybody. They're gone. Terrible. Terminated the Green New Scam and ended the insane electric vehicle mandate. I love electric vehicles. That caused me a little problem with a man named Elon. But he understands, and he's a good guy. We get along, but I said, Elon, we can't have all electric cars. We just can't do it. I like the electric cars. I like his car. But in particular, I like his car. But we can't do that because some people don't want an electric car by 2030. And to build the power stations all over the country would have cost $4 trillion. $4 trillion. That's more than any country has. If you got China, the United States, and everyone, you couldn't do it. And it would have taken years. And yet they were supposed to be switching over electric vehicle mandate. Some people don't like electric cars. Some people want hybrids. Some people want regular gasoline-powered cars. We have more gasoline than anybody. And now with Venezuela, we have 62% of the market when you include Venezuela. So I ended the Green New Scam, and I ended the insane electric vehicle mandate. Now you can buy a gasoline-powered car, a hybrid, and you can buy a electric vehicle. I mean, if you think, if you want electric, you can buy it. Make a good deal on them right now because they made a lot of them. Permanently stopped Joe Biden's ridiculous CAFE standards. That's having to do with the environment, so ridiculous. Canceled the EPA's absurd, totally absurd, tailpipe emission standard, which made you spend hundreds of thousands. It made for hundreds of thousands of cars. The numbers, the cost numbers were incredible that the consumer has to pay. Imposed 25% tariff on all foreign automobiles and 100% tariff on Chinese cars, which don't come into the country because of tariffs. Only because of tariffs. We didn't have tariffs, you wouldn't have any car. We have now more car factories being built in the United States than ever before because of tariffs. If they take those tariffs away, China will eat our lunch. They'll take all of our car business. Now, there's another way of doing it, but it's more cumbersome, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to scare you. but it's much more cumbersome, not as good for national security as this. We have a perfect system right now. We're making a fortune. We've never been stronger, and I hope the Supreme Court does the right thing for our country, because if they don't, it's such a problem. It's just so, it would be so sad. We're doing so well because of tariffs. And the people that are heading up the lawsuit, like there's a guy named Leonard Leo, who's bad guy, and people that are very China-oriented and foreign car-oriented and foreign business-oriented, but in particular China, they're suing to get rid of tariffs because they don't want tariffs, like Coke. Coke has businesses outside of the United States. If you have them outside, you don't want tariffs. But because of tariffs, they treat us well. Without tariffs, they would treat us very badly. As you saw for many years, they respect us more now than they ever have respected us, by a lot. And revoked the California emissions waiver to stop San Francisco communists from regulating the automobile industry and destroying automobiles and the industry in the nation. I was with Bill Ford of Ford Motors. I was with all the people at General Motors the other day, and they are making more money and building more cars than they are doing so good, all because of tariffs and what I've done. And they're